Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today, I have Garik Himebaugh, founder of Eco-Stylist, as my guest on the show. Today, we're going to be talking about his business, his journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a sneak peek into what it's really like to own and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this. Garik, welcome and thank you for being here today. Please give us a brief overview of your background and tell us a bit about your business.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So I guess I'll start with the business. So Eco-Stylist is a go-to resource to find and shop sustainable clothing. And as part of that, so kind of like I guess to give a brief kind of overview of what we're doing here, it's like if people want to shop, clothes that are fair trade or clothes that are, pay living wages or are better for the environment. It's like there's a lot of noise in that space, so it can be hard to find brands that are really doing the work that they want to support. And our resource helps people cut through that noise. So it's like we research the brands, and then they can basically shop over 100 brands that they can trust, and they look really good. And then a logical extension of that is we now offer personal shopping. So it's kind of like, it's like you cut through the noise of like, okay, now I know which brands are sustainable, but I still have a lot of other challenges, right? Like it's like I still want to know like which brands are my size, which brands are my style, which brands have like the specific thing that I've been looking for, like these like flats or like a yellow jacket or something. So basically, yeah. So with that service, we can solve all of those problems for our customers as well. So it's like not only are they getting brands that have been researched for like environmental and ethical concerns, but also that they want to shop and that meet their style. So anyway, so that's kind of like what our business is. And a little, yeah, I kind of had an interesting journey getting here. I guess I kind of like I went to university, and then after that, I was kind of like trying to find my way. After that, I actually studied peace studies, so I was trying to I guess maybe that's where the social impact comes in. But I was trying to work in that field, and I was having a lot of challenges without like a master's degree. Um, and so I just did like random jobs basically. And then I was like frustrated in my career because I went to graduate school for my MBA, but I was kind of following this dual track of like I want to start a business, but I also wasn't sure if it was the right time. So
Mhm.
I think personal belief is probably really important. But um, anyways, I was like following this dual track of like so my MBA was kind of like a mitigation plan for me. It was like risk mitigation. It was like so yeah. So I was getting my MBA because I was like, worst case, this leads to a much better job. And like but anyway, and then while I was in graduate school, I started this business on the side basically, and I had done like entrepreneurial ventures before this. Like I had tried to start different things before grad school, but nothing ever really worked. Like I had a productivity blog for a while, which was like it was kind of interesting. I mean, I got to like chat with some pretty cool authors because I like reviewed a bunch of productivity books, and I ended up getting to like talk to some really cool authors that I respected and stuff. But the blog anyway. But like all these businesses I did beforehand didn't really go anywhere. They were just kind of like projects that started and then kind of died off.
Mhm.
But yeah, but then I started this business in grad school, and then like by the time I was done with grad school, I knew I wanted to keep going. So I've just been doing it ever since, which has been like 6 years. So
Wow. That's a really cool story. I like how dabbled and tried some things and then you found the thing that worked, that's cool. It's like the secret sauce, right?
yeah, but I mean, even that's been a journey. It's been really right because it's even that like it's changed a lot from like I started this at one of these startup weekend events, which they do all over the country, and like it's interesting. Yeah, like I won that event, but like what I'm doing right now is completely different than like what I pitched to those in front of everybody. So like
Yes.
it's just been like kind of a constant evolution and like learning process, to kind of. But yeah, that's kind of how I got here.
100%. I've done those competitions too, and it's incredible when especially when you win and now you see like where it's come so far. So I'd like to really dive in and set the stage for our listeners. What is your current ownership structure? Are you the sole founder or are there outside investors?
Yeah, so our business is has been completely bootstrapped the whole time. So we haven't had any investments, and I'm still the sole owner. So it's pretty simple in that way.
Nice. And do you have any employees currently?
Yeah, we our business something really unique about our business because I don't hear this a lot in in entrepreneurship circles and stuff is we do have other we have people that work for us, but we've also had a lot of volunteers and interns. Like we've had a pretty robust intern program, and by when I say that I mean like we've had over 30 people that have like interned with our organization and kind of like graduated, so to speak, right? And I think that one reason for this is because we're a social enterprise, so we like the first intern that I had actually asked me to like I was like I was working on this at the university where I went to grad school. It was University of Iowa, and and she found me because I was the business is like it was like part of I did the university accelerator. So she like heard about the business and she like asked me to coffee, and then she asked me if she could do an internship. And I was like, this is it was really surprised. I was like, that's really interesting. I was like, I didn't expect that. And so kind of like after that I just realized, yeah, so basically there's like a lot of so mostly it's a lot of college students because they're looking for like, like some semester hours of credit, things like this.
Mhm.
But also people who want to like we've also had a lot of like basically people starting their freelance careers will intern for us for like 3 to 6 months, and then they'll use that portfolio to kind of like launch their freelancing like business. So yeah, we've had a lot of that type of support.
That's incredible. It sounds like you're off to a really good start with what you're working on. I'd like to dive into your role. Like, what does, as the founder, what does your role look like on the day to day? Is it always different, or what's like a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, it's definitely been. I mean, I've done kind of everything since I started this. I've kind of done like all the things. So like when we started, so I started this when I was at University of Iowa, and like then I was doing like I was doing like social media, right? I was like modeling for some of our for some of our clothes and stuff like on our Instagram. So I've kind of like I've done all these different things, and then so yeah, kind of I feel like you kind of have to is when you start something, you kind of have to do everything, and then obviously, I mean, at first, and then obviously you get people to help you with things as as your role changes. But yeah, I've done a little bit of everything, and now it's kind of like I try to just focus on what's like most important for growing the business, and I try not to do anything else. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I really try to just like look at like what's like most important. It's like do we need to drive sales, right? And is that like for example, and then it's like just work on that. So yeah, it definitely changes a lot, for sure. Yeah, but I think that's always kind of the challenge of like it's always like even if you're getting better at prioritizing, I think there's always that challenge of like, is what I'm working on really the most important thing, or is there
Mhm.
something else that I should be giving like higher priority to? So anyway, that's kind of like I kind of work more that way now than in the beginning
Oh, very cool. What is something that you wish people knew more about your business?
about our business. That's a good question. It would be I think it would be like our impact and like our mission because I think I'm sure people like it. I mean, yeah, obviously, like it's like if people come to our website, they might get like a brief, look at that and whatnot. But if you dive deeper, it's like I mean, we're what makes one of the things that makes us really different from other resources out there is like we're really serious about the research that we do and the work that we do, and that shows in like our mission page where we talk about our impact. It's like we research brands to try to find the leaders in terms of like who's making clothes most ethically, most sustainably. And okay, if I give some like numbers here, it might help explain the situation. So yeah, so like in fashion, it's like less than 5% of brands like ensure that the clothing makers in the end of the supply chain are making a living wage. Um,
Mm,
and a living wage is like, it's like for a shoemaker, for example, in Guatemala, it's like a living wage is like what's necessary to put food on the table for his family, but also like be able to afford school supplies so his daughter can go to school, right? So it's like being able to afford those essential things. And our brands, it's like 77% or something like have tangible progress on living wages.
okay.
So it's like very different from 5%, and that's because of like the research that we do. Um, like we're researching brands for kind of a combination of like are they doing enough good across all these factors that we look at?
Hmm.
right? So when you look at like materials, for example, too, like sustainable materials, it's like I think 60% of clothes are right now are made with like just regular what you would call like virgin polyester, which means it's like its first form polyester. It's not recycled or anything like that. And that's like a fossil fuel derived fabric like nylon. And it's like 60% of clothes are made that way. But it's like on our clothing brands, 100% of them use more sustainable materials across like the entire brand, like the majority of more sustainable
Hmm.
materials across the entire brand, 100% like of our brands. So it's like, yeah, and this is because of like how serious we are about like the research that we do. And so I think, yeah, I guess I wish more people knew that in terms of just like the like yeah, like kind of like how thorough we are and like how different. So it's like when we promote a brand, it's like we're promoting them because we really believe in them and like they're brands that are really helping to change the industry and reshape it.
Hmm. That is really interesting. And that actually leads perfectly into my next series of questions, which is all about marketing and getting this awareness out there because it sounds like your products are really well sourced and you're doing a lot behind the brand to make sure you're getting brands that fit in that wheelhouse. So I'd like to dive into what makes your marketing successful and how your efforts are with that. So, for your business, how many different marketing strategies do y'all use right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say we have like um three main approaches. The first one, yeah, so the first one that we is SEO. So we which works really well for us as as a bootstrapped organization. Like we, because like I think as a bootstrap organization, I mean, obviously anybody can do that. Whether, but I think if you have investment, paid ads is probably like a more likely approach. But I think as with when as bootstrapped, it's like yeah, SEO works really well, and it's like it's something we can invest time in, and then pays off long term and later. And it's not like social media. It's very yeah, it's not. It's kind of like it's perpetual, right? Whereas like
Mhm.
paid ads, it's like you need to have a budget set aside for it, and then you have to keep investing in it. It's kind of like, and then like, anyway, I'm not. There's obviously different values, different approaches. I'm not trying to like sell it on that, but it just works really well for us. So we really leaned into that, and we get a lot of traffic that way. And then we also use email marketing, and then like obviously social media. But I think one thing I'll say about social media in comparison is like, it's a lot less predictable, right? Like it's not. I feel like one thing about SEO is like you feel like you invest in it and you have like these sort of long term perpetual gains. Social
Mhm.
media doesn't really feel that way. It feels like it's been. I think a lot of people have like felt the pinch of it where it's like it felt like everybody could play on an equal playing field organically in the beginning. And then now it feels a lot more like if you're not paying, then you're not gaining. It, is kind of the way that it feels for me at least. And I think a lot of people feel that way too, like a lot of other business owners and stuff. So yeah, so I think anyway, but obviously a lot of people are making a lot of money through social media. So it's not, but yeah, anyway, that's kind of been our approach. So we kind of, put I guess, our time in those three buckets.
Oh, very cool. It's always fun to like learn about how different businesses are doing things, especially as a social, business that you are. It's nice to hear what your strategies are. You're kind of taking a deep dive into the journey of your business. As you look back at your journey so far, what has been a memorable roadblock or hurdle that you were challenged with that you were forced to overcome?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of them. Trying to think of like what stands out. I mean, one that I'll share is like it doesn't really mean that much to me anymore, but I'll share it for other entrepreneurs because I, it's probably one of the more important ones because I think if I didn't overcome this, I definitely would have just given up. Um, and that is it, like yeah, and that is it, like in the beginning. It's really interesting. I think one of the most interesting challenges for entrepreneurs is that we need feedback, right? Like, so
Mm,
we need to be soliciting feedback, and it comes from different. It comes from like peers. It can come from like mentors. It can come from like if you do like the accelerators and stuff. It can come from like judges, right? And its feedback is great, but there's a double sided sword to that, right? Where it's like it's double edged. Where like you have to like balance that with like believing in yourself and knowing what's correct because ultimately like judges will give you feedback and there's really valuable nuggets in there, but sometimes judges have like no idea what they're talking about, or like you did the research, you know what I mean? So like if you actually went and talked to like 200 customers, and you have the research that supports what you're saying, but judges don't believe that, right? Then
Mhm.
like at the end of the day, you have to look at you have to be able to like say what's true and what's not, right? So you can't,
Yeah.
yeah. And so judges will give you really, and this is what I mean, like, so you'll get really valuable feedback from judges and mentors, but you can't let that be like the end all be all. You have to ultimately decide what's right and what's wrong. Because I've seen startups, like when I went through my first accelerator, I saw like one startup and they received like really hard feedback from a judge, and they were like, "Oh, we should quit because like our idea is crap," you know?
Mhm.
And I was like talking to them, and I was like, no, I was like, maybe there's something true in what the judge said, but like you have to, at the end of the day, like you have to decide if what they said is right or wrong. It's not
Yeah.
absolute truth. Um, and that was really true for us because yeah, because like that happened to us too. Like we in our accelerator, the first several weeks went like really badly for us. Like it was like we were getting like out of all the startups, we were getting like the worst feedback. Like like yeah, like it
Yeah.
was like everybody else, they were like, oh, you're doing good. And then I would pitch and they would be like, no, they would be like, this sucks. Like they were like, nobody wants this, you know. They were
Yeah.
like, people don't care about sustainability. Like I got like all kinds of really interesting feedback.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, and it was really hard, but it's also really funny because in a class of like there was like 13 startups or something in this accelerator, I might be the only one that's still going, you know? So like I don't know, I can't say that for sure because I have to look, but like I'm definitely one of the only like I know most of the other startups have like they shut down or right, they didn't make it, right? Like their journey changed. And so it's like really interesting because I got like the worst feedback, but I'm like I'm probably the only one out of that cohort that's like still doing what they're doing. Um or one of the only ones. And it's like, but yeah, and it's because like they gave me all that feedback and it's like ultimately there could be nuggets in it, but I had to look at it and say like, okay, they're telling me this, but I've also like talked to all these customers, you know? And so I
Mhm.
had to weigh like my research and what I knew against what they were telling me and then decide like, and I think that it really taught me like how to believe in myself and how to like navigate those situations, which I think is really important. Because if I hadn't done the research, then yeah, maybe they would have been right, you know? But
Yeah.
I had information from customers that like directly contradicted what they were telling me. So and I went with that. So
Yeah, sometimes it's like you get the feedback, you take what serves and kind of leave the rest if it's not. Yeah. I totally get that. Well,
yeah.
kind of like looking too at the future of your business, it sounds like you're building, you're growing. What do you see for your business in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think the I see so we kind of I mentioned we our latest product, which is like like I said, it's kind of a natural evolution of what we do because it's like we were helping this customer and then our personal shopping service helps us help them even more. Right. It's like
Mhm.
it's like what is the it's like after the initial problem of our customer, what's still the problem, right? And so I see our future as really in this is really growing this personal shopping business and growing that, like having like a thousand monthly subscribers by the end of this year, 10,000 the following year. In 3 to 5 years, I see us as being the leading source for shopping sustainable clothing in the US. Because it's like it's an interesting niche. Like it's a big opportunity, but most solutions are still kind of like failing the end consumer,
Mhm.
where they're just not, like I mentioned, it's just too tedious, and like it's just people don't want to do the work, and which makes sense. Like it totally makes sense. So I think, yeah, I really see us as taking a leading spot in that market because I think we can help, a lot more people um, to shop at our clothes because it's just way easier when you don't have to do all the work yourself. It's like, okay, here's, it's like you want to shop clothes in a barefoot environment. It's like here's outfits you'll love, here's shoes you'll love, right? Here's like jewelry to go with it, right? It's like it's just like way easier, and so I think we can do a lot there.
Oh, very cool. We have covered a lot of ground. Garrick, this has been such a fun conversation. And for anybody listening, definitely take a listen to this a few times through. I mean, there's so many golden nuggets. And so I'd like to dive into our rapid fire questions. These are just our top of mind, like thing that comes to your mind. We've got 4 questions. Garrick, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1 is, what is a key to success for you?
Okay, probably an unusual one, but I'll just say top of mind patience. Um, and what I mean by that is like we don't, as an entrepreneur, you've got to try really hard and you've got to test things. But the reality is like we don't ultimately know what when success will happen, right? Like we can do our best, but it's like we're gonna test things and then we're gonna think are awesome and then they just like flop. And so I think it's really important to be patient because for me, at least in my journey, like the moments where the moments where like everything changed. We were starting to like they weren't the moments I predicted. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know when they would come, so it definitely requires like just patience and yeah.
That's a good answer. I like that. Very true. Question number two is, what is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Piece of advice. I think okay, so I'll try to be fast here. So I would say focused is like super important. Because I've seen in a lot of my accelerators, I mean, I've struggled with that. I've seen other entrepreneurs struggle with that as well. Where it's like it's easy. I think entrepreneurs like we're innovators, right? So business like we get really excited and we always want
Yeah.
to do like all these things, you know? And that's
Yeah.
obviously great. Like it's one of our strengths, but it can be a weakness if we let it get in our way, you know, because if we're doing something really, really well, like if we focused on that, we could grow it significantly. But a lot of
Mhm.
times, like our attention is diverted because we're like, there's all these other things that we're also excited about. And so I think
Mhm.
that's just something I think we all struggle with that, but I think it's something to always keep in mind, like always rethink of like, you know, am I focusing on the right priorities? And like,
Mm.
if not, you know, should I change course?
Of course, correct. That is a great answer too. Number three is, what is a book you're reading or any piece of content? Could be a podcast, could be anything that you are taking in right now.
Yeah, so I've been a follower of like of Noah Kagan, like the entrepreneur based in Austin, for many years. Like I don't know how long, like a long time, like probably 10 years or more, I would say. Um, and like I went to like there was like an AppSumo conference in Austin many years ago. Gosh, like 8 7 8 years ago that I went to. Anyway, he came out with a book recently called $1 Million Weekend,
Mm.
um, and that book was really impactful for me. Obviously, I've read a lot of books in like productivity, entrepreneurship, etc. Um, and they've all had like an impact, but that one was one of the most impactful books I've read. Even and this was like I read this like after going through three startup accelerators, you know. So it's not like I wasn't taking in information or doing or like educating myself or training, right? But his book is really really valuable because it's just like really action oriented. So it's and so for me the way I used it is like you could use it to test a new idea and try to start a new business, but for me I used it to test a new service, like an extension of our business, right? And it was something I'd wanted to do for a long time, but it just like anyway, this book just helped me like make it happen because it's just very action oriented. It's very like get out of your own way oriented. It's like go do this, go test it, don't wait, don't prepare. Like just it's like just and it's so it's really it made a big difference for me. So it really helped me a lot, and so I would definitely recommend this book to other people.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm gonna have to check that one out. And our final question is, if you had to choose only one area of business you could immediately improve on tomorrow, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I would say sales would be my yeah because it's an interesting one. Like sales are something that I've had the chance to be a part of other startups as well along my journey, right? And what I know 100%, what I feel very strongly about with sales is that like I feel like as the founder, you have to be able to do it first, right?
Mhm.
I don't think you should hire a salesperson if you don't have your first sale. I've been on that ship and it didn't work, you know. So like yeah, I think we're like I wasn't the founder, but like I anyway, it's yeah, I think you've got to be able to get your first sales first, like yourself. I think that's key. If you can't sell your product, then I think it's probably not a good sign, or
Mhm.
it's like I don't mean like it's end of the road, but I mean like maybe you need to like adjust the product. Maybe you don't have product market fit, right, et cetera, before you anyway. So I think that's what I wish I was. But anyway, that would be the thing though. It's like I've obviously so I obviously have to have some competency in it, but I'm also like I also know that I'm not the best at it. So like what I would yeah, so that's where I would like to improve is like because I'd like to bring on somebody for sales because it's like as since I have something that's working and it's selling and I'm off to a good start, but it's like then to grow it, you need a good salesperson. So and I just know that that's not like my best skill. So
Sales. Yes, that's a good one. So this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for your transparency, your honesty, about your business. It's been such a joy to talk with you. How can we get folks connected with you? Feel free to share your social media or any form of contact.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so our social media handle on most channels is it's your Eco-Stylist like all together. So it's yeah, so it's your Eco-Stylist. That's like Instagram, etc. They can contact they can contact me that way. Also my email is, well, also our website has a contact form as well, so it's pretty easy there too. Like our website eco-stylist.com has a contact form. So I mean that's super easy. Like we obviously read all of those. So I would say, yeah, I would say those are probably the two easiest because they're just like really easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Garrick. And now getting into our final question for today. What is most inspiring to you today?
Yeah. I think I think it's like the most inspiring thing to me, I think, which is kind of like why I'm doing what I'm doing, is that business can be a vehicle for change. I think it's like I think that's really interesting. I mean, I think that I didn't that was something I kind of like discovered along my business journey. Like I was going to business school, and that's not necessarily like what they're teaching first, in business school, but it's like, but yeah, I had some exposure to it, and then but then I just kind of realized that like businesses, and they could be forces for all kinds of change. They can be forces for negative change too, right? They can be forces for negative change. They can be forces for positive change. But I think I'm just really inspired by just the idea that like through business we could drive change and positive social change, and I think that's really cool and it's really powerful. And that's why, like, instead of starting a nonprofit, I wanted to start like a for-profit social enterprise, because I just think, to me, that's really interesting, and I believe that that's the future of business. And so I wanted to like learn more about that and lean into it and just be like, if I pursue this route, like what can we do? And so yeah, for me, I think that's been like a huge inspiration.
Well, definitely. Well, Garrick, thanks again for being on the show. It's been a joy to have you, and I wish you all the success in your business endeavors.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for having me.